Hey guys, Equinox here. This is going to be the Season 4 Nokhud Offensive Dungeon Guide, and so let's get right into it. So I'm going to be playing this on far speed. So this first area, you're going to fly over, do the dragon flying, go straight to the first big pole. I'm going to pause it really quick as soon as we get in and basically explain the mechanics of this first pole, and then we'll keep going. So this first big pole, there's a few mobs. So there's the War Spears. They do this ability called Pierce, which is just a tank buster, and they do an ability called Swift Stab. So the Swift Stab is a charge. So the way this charge works is once the charge cast finishes, you can CC it, and it'll stop them in their tracks and go on full cooldown. If you CC them before the cast goes off, then it'll just recast. So this is not a CC and it'll stop it. It'll be CC afterwards. Stuff like Binding Shot, Vortex, really good against these mobs. They'll charge, get dragged back or stunned, and it'll cancel it. Hunters can also Feign Death it, Turtle, Freezing Trap, basically anything that stops them in their path. Really good. Next mob is the Horn Sounder. They do a shoot and then they do Rally the Clan, which is just a 6-second cast. You CC it, it won't recast. If you let it go off, it busts physical damage by 50%. Don't let that go off. Then there's the Plane Stomper. They do a one cast called Disruptive Shout. You have to kick it. One person kick, and then they do War Stomp, just a AoE, don't stand in it, does big damage. There's the Beastmaster. They summon an Ohuna, and they do an ability called Hunt Prey. Again, CC it, won't recast. If this cast does go off, you can CC the War Ohuna, and it'll stop the cast. And then there's the longbow. So they did change the longbows a little bit. They do an ability called Rain of Arrows. That comes out less frequently now. They do shoot, and they used to do multi-shot. They removed multi-shot, so you don't have to worry about that anymore. So let's play it out so you can see the mechanics. And there's the Hunt Prey. As you can see, like Hunt Prey goes off, healer dies. Super not good. And yeah, that's literally the whole area is just a repeat of all these mobs. So the biggest thing you have to worry about is the Hunt Prey. That's going to be the most dangerous one. You always want to stop that, and you always want to stop the Horn Sounder. Everything else, don't have to worry about CCing too much. You just want to get the kick on the Disruptive Shout, CC on the Horn Sounder, CC on the Hunt Prey. That's it. You rinse, repeat that the entire time. You can have your range kind of deal with the War Spears on their own. There is some weird safe spot on the pole, so I'm going to pause when you get a good view of it. So you see that pole at the left side next to my kick tracker. That is something an evoker can rescue up to. You can like dragon flying on top of it, and the War Spears will not charge the entire time they are up there. So if you have an ability to get up there and abuse the safe spot, you can. Otherwise, just deal with them regularly. The War Spears aren't tuned too heavily right now. They seem pretty fine. Yeah, you just do all this trash. Once the 3 Lance Masters are dead, the Lance Masters is the exact same as the Plane Stompers, but just mini bosses. Once the 3 Lance Masters are dead, the boss will spawn, and then you'll do the boss. Now, in this first area, you want to get at least the big pack that we did at the first poll, all 3 Lance Master packs, the padding 5-pack, and at least probably a 3-pack for percent. You need quite a bit of percent in this dungeon, which is not my favorite, but it is what it is. That's going to be your requirement. And then once we get into Granith is an extremely simple boss. I'll show you kind of like a little tank trick that I like to do. It basically removes all the responsibilities from your healer, and it doesn't remove your uptime too much. So I'm going to skip ahead. We're going to go past this pack, and we're going to go into Granith. Go back a little bit so you can see the boss spawn and see what I mean by RP. I think the boss already spawned. Yeah, boss already spawned. So basically, this boss has a couple abilities. He does Shards of Stone, which is just a big AoE, does nature damage to the group, kills people. He also spawns ads. So these ads spawn in an order. So the first one's RNG. Whatever it'll go, he'll pick a lance, like a little catapult thing. The ad will go to that, and then you know the next one is any of the catapults that wasn't that one. So say it's north, it'll go to the left one or the west one or the south one next. So if it picks north and then west, then you know the third one will be south, and then it'll go in that order for the rest of the fight. And that lets you basically predict where the ads are. You can CC them if you want. But yeah, they'll get to the lance and they'll do a little deconstruct cast, and if you do that, then you can't use the lance, then you can't stop eruption. He also does an ability called Tectonic Stomp. Now, we use this ability to our advantage on the catapults. So everything but this first catapult is going to be where we use it, and then we click on it, boom, stop eruption. So, there is going to be one thing we do differently for the rest of that. You see how the shard cast, or the eruption, like, gets off there? We don't want that for all the other lance casts. We want to use the lance as soon as it comes up to stop the shards of stone cast. So you're going to see how we do it. The ad spawns, we kill it. You always want to have like a slow here, a ring of peace, or a sweep. And we're going to use the Tectonic Stomp to get launched into the catapult. So you see how I position myself? I defensive, I get knocked, I click the catapult, boom, he doesn't cast shards, and it resets the cast time. See, he's not casting shards of stone here, just reduces the group damage intake. And you just do that for every single catapult. You use your defensives to get knocked from Tectonic Slam, get knocked back, boom, click it insta, there you go. Rinse and repeat that every single time. Ultra easy. I actually really like this boss attack because you get like a little defensive rotation just to do something cool. So yeah, kind of cool. I like it. The reason I do the defensive on Tectonic Slam is to reduce the amount of downtime I have on the boss. Because if I just ran over there, right, I'd just be running over, the boss would be moving a bunch, I'd get less uptime on the boss, and yeah, just a little nice way to do it. Now the second area is kind of a little harder. So the second area consists of a couple difficult mobs. For Brew, the most difficult mob is the Primalist Arcblade. They do an ability called Arcing Strike. Now you can either CC this, or you can backstep it. If you backstep it, then it'll just not finish the cast, and it'll go on full cooldown. So that's really important. I'm going to go ahead and pause here and explain this trash back, because this is literally all the trash in here besides this Thunder Beast. So, you get this these mini bosses again, the Stormcallers. There's 4 of these total and 4 totems. The totems are what spawn the boss, so make sure you kill those, but the mini boss are also important. So, the mini boss is a cast, Stormbolt. You just have to have a 2-person kick rotation for this. And then there's the Storm Speaker. They used to have an ability called Stormbolt. That was removed, so the kick requirement in this area has gone down significantly. They do an ability called Summon Squall, which you can CC. And then they do an ability called Tempest, which you can also CC without recast. So, the most important kicks here are Stormbolt from the mini-boss and the Tempest kick from the Storm Speakers. And when the Squalls get off, as long as it's not casting on the tank, you want to kick that as well. And you want to kill the totem first, because then he'll stop doing Totemic Overload, which is a big AoE to players. So, let's go ahead and play. And you'll get to see all of this. And again, the Arc Strike, second most important ability, or first most important for Brewmaster, because they do hurt quite a bit on Fort Week. You always want to backstep it. Oh, one more thing I almost forgot. The little warriors, the Primal Storm Shields, they do an ability called Storm Shield. This is purgeable. It puts a big shield on the target, and if it isn't killed within the 12-second duration, it explodes, does a lot of damage. Purge is a huge time save on these because it removes this massive shield and basically it's basically like a 5 mil damage hit when you purge it. So Purge really valuable here. You want some form of Purge within Blood Elf, Shaman, Priest, Hunter, any kind of Purge. Really valuable and just a time save in this area. So you see I'm going to pull don't pull Thunder Beast. We'll go over that when we get to there. But yeah, this is basically same thing. Same cast. Literally every single pack is the same. The only pack that's different is the final one that we pull, and that's a double Arc Blade single caster pack. So that'll be a little different. Also, these little guys here, you just purge them and they go away. They just go to 1 HP. They don't really do anything, though. They just auto attack. So nothing to worry about there. There's there. You can have a mage spell steal those for a massive shield, by the way. So if you pull those with the boss, the mage can keep them up and just spell steal and be pretty much immortal. But yeah, all these packs are the same. I'm going to wait till we get to the last pack. I think that's where I show the backstep tech. Not entirely sure, but yeah. And then when we pull the Thunder Beast, I'll go over the Thunder Beast. That one's kind of important too. You just rinse and repeat all these areas. think I'm actually just tanking them because it's only a 12. I'm going to go pull the Storm Beast here. So the Thunder Beast does one ability, or a couple abilities. He does, let me find it, he does Chain Lightning, which is just a big arrow on the player. Don't want that to go off. And then he does Thunder Strike. Or you don't want that in the group, sorry. Chain Lightning, you don't want that in the group. Thunder Strike is the kick that you don't want to go off. So you kick Thunder Strike, Chain Lightning goes off, just don't be in the group and you'll be fine. It does hit quite hard, so be careful. So yeah, Boon here. Keep kicking Thunder Strikes. You see it does random damage, does a lot of damage. Then there's Chain Lightning, boom, it hits really hard. And yeah, you can see all these like really, really powerful casts. He does the Thunderclap, just don't stay on that. This pack, you could skip. It's kind of difficult to skip because you have to play really close to the boss, but it is technically possible. If you do play this pack, though, I would probably make sure you have a Purge. On Fort Week, this pack kind of sucks, so I would make sure you have cooldowns to this pack. On Tyran Week, it'll just fall over, so don't worry about it too much. But on Fort Week, definitely have some cooldowns. So let's go over this boss really quick. So this boss is super simple. He only has a couple mechanics. So he has a range check mechanic on tanks, and his ability called Wind Burst. Crap ton of damage. So he does this on pull. I don't remember if you guys played Ozumat week 1 in Throne of Tides, but he did the same thing. You pull him, and he would just shoot a bolt at you right in the face. Hurts so much. So rolling in, super valuable here. Try to like roll in and then taunt when you're in melee. To avoid this, otherwise just diffuse on pull. He has an ability called Energy Surge. Energy Surge is a big buff on him that increases attack speed and makes him do nature damage on the autos. Purge, again, super valuable here. Purge is really OP in this dungeon. And then he does an ability where he puts a circle on everyone, and that just does big AoE damage. And then he drops these balls. These balls are damage buffs, so this is the most integral part of the fight. This first phase is really short. You don't get as many balls, but every phase after this, every single person should have 10 balls, and especially the healer. You want the healer to have the damage buff every time he does the Raging Tempest cast. So I'm going to play it. You get these balls. And at every phase after this, you want to let the balls walk in slowly, right? So the reason you want to do that is because if you let them all get as close to the boss as possible, that means you get the latest refresh possible. The later the refresh is, the more chance you have of extending the buff fully. So if you wait till the last second to grab the ball to refresh your stack, you have a chance of getting the next set of balls before your buff runs out, thus giving you virtually 100% uptime on the buff. Again, the first wave is awkward because of how little balls spawn, so you probably won't get the full refresh, but you could still replicate it to some wave. The very first wave, make sure you give most of the balls to the healer. That is the hardest one because, again, like I said, there's not that many balls. You're not going to get 10 on everyone, so it's going to be kind of awkward. So first phase, make sure you get as many amount on the healer as possible to get through the first phase. Then everything after that, prioritize everyone. And then that's about it. That's all his mechanics. Pretty simple boss. You just rinse and repeat that forever. And eventually he dies. So let's go on to the next area. So the next area is going to be kind of hard. So again, 4 mini bosses. You can see that's kind of a theme throughout this entire dungeon. 4 mini bosses you have to kill to activate the boss. They did rework a couple mobs here. So the mobs they reworked were the Beast Callers and the Desecrated Ohunas. The Ohunas are the little birds that pat around. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward and kind of show you what they reworked. So, what they reworked, the biggest one, is the Desecrated Ohunas, the birds. They now do a Rotting Wind cast, which they did before, but now it's not a frontal. It is a giant AoE with a dot. This is really important to stop. It does not recast on CC, same as before, so don't worry about that too much. Just make sure you CC it, kick it. Do not let this go off. It hurts so much. Really important to stop that. The mini bosses do the same kick rotation. It's a 3-kick rotation between Death Bolt Volley. Actually, no, it's a 2-person. Yeah, it's 2-person kick rotation, 2 melee kick rotation for Death Bolt Volley. So make sure you kick that. There's the AoE that goes off. Hurts really bad. Now, the Beast Callers, you cannot stop this cast anymore. They do an ability called Desecrating Roar that summons adds. This cast is not stoppable anymore. Not a fan of that because those kind of truck the tank. I don't know if you guys remember in that season, but they do kind of clap the tank. Very unfortunate, but, you know, is what it is, I guess. But yeah, that's the whole entire area. The death speakers are pretty much the same. Do not let any undead mob stay in the chant of the dead cast, which is the giant green circle they do. Any undead mob will get a 50 or 20% damage reduction and increase their damage done by 20%. The undead mobs are the mystics and the warriors, I think. The beast callers are humanoid. The death speakers are humanoid. The soul harvesters are humanoid. Oh, and the birds. So the birds, the mystics, and the warriors are all undead. So those three you don't want to be in the buff zone. And yeah, you just go around doing this. So there's one other mob that we have to go over, the Corruptor. Now, they buff the bolt damage on these by 50%. This is a 3-person kick rotation, I believe, since they have a very low cooldown lockout. So 3-person kick rotation. Really don't want these chain going off. One of them going off is fine. 2 of them constantly hitting you sucks. They also do an ability called Necrotic Eruption, which is just a channel. You can CC this at any time, and they spawn these balls. And you just don't stand on the balls, and you're fine. The other mob is the Mystic. So the Mystic just does 1 cast. It's called Swift Wind. CC it, no recast. That's it. If you let it go off, it increases the haste of all allies or enemies by 20%. That with the casters, not friendly for Brood. Don't want that to happen. And yeah, basically this area is just controlling the casters, controlling the Ohunas, controlling anything that is deadly to you guys, and making sure Necrotic Volt Volley doesn't go off. If you're a DPS player, these Soul Harvesters have an ability called Shatter Soul. The Shatter Soul basically takes your soul out, reducing your damage done by 30%. You have to pick it up. It's on the ground. It's this like little white glowing ball. You just run over it, pick up your soul. That's it. And you get your damage buff back. That's the whole area. You have a lot of trash to pull in this area, don't forget. And basically you want to get 93.85%. 93.85% or 400 and... how much count? 498? No, 488. 488 count. Yeah, 488 count before you go to the last area. So for this boss coming up, it's going to be the duo boss. Basically, they have a little bond, so when they're far apart, they get a stacking damage buff. So keep them together at all times. Tira does a leap. It picks a leap in the location. This leap almost always, not every single time, but almost always pairs with the fear. So Speed Taunt, really useful in this dungeon. That's in the guide that I'll have linked down below, the Brewmaster guide. So make sure you take Speed Taunt in this dungeon. Really, really valuable. And basically, whenever he does a jump, you always want to Speed Taunt Maruk and have him come over. I don't think I have it in this dungeon. But yeah, you just want to keep them together at all times. He does Brutalize, which is a tank buster. I'll have the CD rotation in the guide as well, so you have that link. And now he does Gale Winds. So this, if you're playing in a group, you always just stack in melee on the tank, or you have a ranged and melee camp. Ranged stand out, stack on each other. Melee stand in and stack on each other. This creates a bunch of tornadoes around the character, and the reason you stack is because these don't hit anyone as long as you're next or you're on top of each other. See these tornadoes? They go out and then they return. There's the Spirit Leap. You can stand in, it doesn't do anything. And she just does shoot. And then we're going to see the combo on the next one. So here's Frightful Roar, Spirit Leap, and this is going to be the knockback combo. So here's going to be the knockback, and then he's going to do the Earth Splitter. These Earth Splitter lines are baited on players, so ideally you stack up and just move one direction. So I'm going to go ahead and play it. So this knockback, you do not want to kick. So I'm going to explain the reason why. The reason you do not want to kick is because if you kick it instantly, she's going to go back to shooting. These shoots hurt. Especially on Tyrannical, these shoots absolutely hurt. You do not want these chain going off, so just let the knockback push you. Just make sure you're like in melee or like on a little slanted hill or something. You won't get knocked back too far, and just let it push against you. Really, it's way worth that you let that push you instead of just getting chain shot. And yeah, you stack up, you just move around, make sure you have full uptime on the boss. Frightful Roar again, you just move the boss over. He does Brutalize. Rinse and repeat. Then the Gale Winds, you want to stack up, and they split out, and again they return. So we go this way. You see them return right there. They do nature damage. They absolutely hurt. Does the frightful roar. And we move back over, and that's the whole fight. Rinse, repeat that forever. Super, super simple. This is a very deadly boss. The Gale Winds does an absolute crap ton of damage on Tyrannical. You're going to need a CD rotation from your DPS and healers. Just really have to live. Now, the next boss is probably the most annoying boss. So the next boss has 2 or 3 separate phases. Phase 1 is like a light version of his mechanics. That's physical damage based, and the phase 3 is all magic damage based. P2 is an ad phase where you just group up all the ads, kill them during lightning phase. You'll see all these mechanics when I go over them. So I'm going to go ahead and fast forward. I'm going to show you guys the skip. I'm sure a lot of people know this. Anyone who played in Season 1 should know this. But it's basically just a way to get to the last boss area without worrying too much. So you see right here, we fly, and you just head towards this cliff right in front of me, this far left side cliff next to this big pointy. There's like a little open area right here. You just aim your character for this, and you just land. Boom, that's it. You gotta skip all the trash, nothing to worry about, really short flight. So you can skip these 2 mini bosses. We opt to kill them. So if you skip these 2 mini bosses, then all you have to do is pull. One person with meld pulls the trash, so say a night elf or a rogue or a mage pulls it. They pull it to the side, basically where I am, and everyone else is to the left where the boss is. So they pull the trash first, I pull the boss, and then they invis, the mobs reset, and we don't get aggro. But yeah, you can pull this. These mobs don't really do anything. They have 1 frightful blood-curdling shout kick. They have a charge, so make sure the tank is the closest one to them and facing the wall so it doesn't charge far. And then you have the spear cast that you just dodge. Here's the charge. So the charge goes to the closest person to him, by the way. So if the tank's not the closest person, it'll charge random people. Then he has that frontal that you also point away from DPS. And that's it. Super simple. Really easy trash. So the important thing about the boss for the tank is his combo. So he has 2 combos. He has Rending Strike and a Savage Strike. So Rending Strike puts a bleed on you, and then Savage Strike does increased damage to people with the bleed on them. Dwarf, Cauterize can remove these, and it'll make Savage Strike hit like nothing. So you always have to worry about or defensive the second hit. The second hit is the really painful one. And then he'll do a charge combo, which I'll explain while we're tanking next to this rock. So here's the arrow. You see right there? So you bring it behind this rock, and he'll charge the rock and get stuck and won't go anywhere. So you're going to see, boom, doesn't go anywhere. This is super important strat for 1, for uptime, and 2, just for way less stress, way less movement for the entire group. And then there's the bleed into the Savage Strike. You always CD the Savage Strike because that's the most painful part. The upheaval you just spread. In the magic phase, that'll leave a puddle on the ground, so the strat gets a bit more complicated. As you can see, this first area, or this first phase, collapse. Not a big fan of it as brew. And when he reaches 60%, he does the ad phase. Basically, what you want to do with these ads is each person kicks 1 marker, and then you can bring them in. You can also CC one side if you want. That is slower and puts a lot more stress on the healer, but not too bad. So we're going to go over here. We're all going to kick 1 each. And then we're going to bring them to the center, and then AoE CC them on cast until they die. And that is about it. You should get this done. VDH has an excessively easy time doing this part, but you know how it goes. And then you go bring him to the wall over here. So now we're going to have a different tank combo. This is the magic phase tank combo. He does Conductive Strike into Thunder Strike. So Conductive Strike puts a dot on you that the healer can dispel, or you can diffuse. That does a crap ton of magic damage and increases the damage of Thunder Strike by 500%. If this does not get dispelled, you probably die. So basically what you want to do is you want to defensive the Conductive Strike because it hits a lot harder than the bleed one did in the first phase, and then you want to diffuse the dot off anytime you can. So you see I diffuse it off, it puts a dot on him, and it does a lot of damage. And then you have these little puddles you spawn. So now this spear is different. This one, it sucks every player onto this, and then he does the charge. So you see a person didn't use the rock, and he almost reset the boss. Really close to resetting the boss. So you see these puddles. Now the upheaval happens. You want to roll. You want to. Anytime the charge happens, after the charge, you want to move him to the wall, and everyone drops their puddles along the wall. And it'll just reduce the amount of space you take up. Dodge the swirlies. There goes Conductive Strike again. And we're going to add the Defensive Thunder Strike. He bubble taunted there for me. That was really nice of him. And then there's the Suck again. Charge hits the thing. Don't have to worry about it. And then there's going to be Upheaval again. I was really greedy here. I don't even know why I did this. It's the most greedy boon ever. And yeah, you rinse and repeat that the whole fight. Nothing too complicated. Like I said, these fights are very complicated. They just do a lot of damage. And yeah, that's about it. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you learned something. I will be posting routes at the end of this week for you guys to watch out. I hope you guys have a fantastic day. Thank you for all the support. I appreciate you guys. I'll get alpha content out as soon as I get alpha. And yeah, like, subscribe to the video. See you guys in Season 4. Peace out.